wanted to get on here and talk a little bit today about receiving feedback. And this topic came up because me and my 4 co-hostesses on the 5 Lemons Laughing podcast, which is linked in my bio if you're curious to know more about that. Our most recent episode was all about giving and receiving feedback. And I honestly just had a lot more to say on the subject. So I thought I would come on here and share what I wanted to share. So most of us, I'm going to just generalize right here and say most of us have a strong emotional response when someone gives us feedback. And why is it that we have such a strong response when somebody offers us feedback? Well, one thing is we were taught poorly. And another piece of it is that we are being activated into our ego's fears and false beliefs. They're being kicked to the surface. And a third component is that we are being ripped out of the present moment when somebody gives us feedback, and we're going into the past, remembering a time that someone gave us feedback and there was like a catastrophic end result, or that was somebody else's experience. We're remembering that and thinking that is going to happen to us here and now, or we're future tripping and catastrophizing about some possible future outcome that is unwanted as a result of this situation. So either way, we're not present. So let's just dig into each of those a little bit deeper. So what do I mean by we were taught poorly? We actually were not taught how to receive feedback gracefully. No one teaches us this. This is not a skill that's taught in school, although it would be great if it was. So since nobody explicitly teaches us, then we learn by other people modeling behavior to us. So we infer that the appropriate way to respond to feedback based on what we have witnessed in others is to get upset, it's to take it personally, it's to take offense, it's to feel hurt, shame, embarrassed, it's to retaliate with criticism. So anytime that we are corrected, challenged in any way, or questioned by someone, most of us, our automatic response is to get upset. So what would the practice be then to overcome this? What really helped me was the book, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. Is one of the 4 agreements is don't take anything personally. And nothing is ever personal. No matter how personal it may seem, you might come up with 10 different examples of scenarios. You're like, but wait, this is the exception to the rule. This was deeply personal. It is not. It never is personal. So if you want to understand more about how and why that is true, I encourage you to get the book, The 4 Agreements. It's a short, quick, easy read, very insightful, very powerful. So don't take anything personally. And then a truth that has helped me with this is from A Course in Miracles. In my defenselessness, my safety lies. So when we choose to be defensive, then we are choosing to be weak. We're choosing to identify with the ego. But when we choose defenselessness, we are choosing to identify with our truth, with our true nature, with our power. So that has been helpful to me. So the second point, that the reason we get upset when somebody gives us feedback is because our false beliefs and fears have been activated. What does that mean? Take a look at what happens to you when you receive feedback. My personal experience is that my heart starts racing or pounding, my chest and face become flushed. I feel hot, like my face and my ears particularly start to feel hot. And so if we're having this type of a physiological response, and yours might look different than mine, that tells us that maybe that tells us that fight, flight, freeze, or fawn response has been activated, which that tells us that a defense mechanism has been activated. We're not feeling safe. So why is it that we're not feeling safe? What is it that we're afraid of? There could be, if it's feedback that you're getting from your boss, it could be that a fear of being fired, which if you look at it more deeply is maybe like a fear of being homeless and destitute. Like, it gets really crazy the more you extrapolate what's underneath the fear. If it's feedback coming from your spouse, maybe the fear is that they're not going to love you, they're going to leave you, a fear of abandonment, a fear that you're going to end up divorced and lonely and nobody's ever going to love you, you're an outcast. So if you pause to consider why you're afraid, what is it that you're afraid of, you can really see how kind of ridiculous the fears are and how unwarranted they are most of the time, and this diffuses them for us. So the practice then is just to question everything, examine it, look at it, bring it to the light, hold it up to the light, invite spirit in. If that language doesn't resonate for you, invite your higher self in, invite whatever it is that works for you, whatever language you like to use, and ask how to see this situation correctly. A Course in Miracles says, I am never upset for the reason I think. And that is an unequivocal statement. I am never upset for the reason I think. So we think that we are upset because of this external situation, because of what this person said to us. But what we're actually upset by is the meaning that we have assigned to the situation, the interpretation that we have made of it, our beliefs about what it means. So another A Course in Miracles also says, I have given everything I see all the meaning that it has for me. So this is where our power lies. Like, identify what the real reason for your upset is. Take back the power, take the responsibility for the upset. Don't pawn it off on this other person and the situation and the feedback. Identify what the meaning is that you are making out of the situation. I'm making the meaning that this means I'm not good at my job, or this means that I am fundamentally unlovable, whatever it is, identify it. So then if we can put all of this into practice, then the trigger, the upset, the feedback actually can become a blessing in disguise, because it's an opportunity for healing. It is an invitation to look at your old, unhealed, unquestioned false beliefs and programs that have just been running silently in the background, running your life, running your responses to situations, people, and things. So my teacher, Jennifer Hadley, likes to say awareness is curative. So we are bringing all of this to our awareness, and that is the first step of healing it and reprogramming how we're going to respond in the future. So again, the practice here is to, like, if I notice that I'm wanting to go into fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, then a fear has been activated. Question it. What is the fear? Question everything. I like to use Byron Katie's 4 questions here. She has a website, I think it's called thework.org or thework.com. She has a few books. She has a ton of YouTube videos. Her work has been tremendously helpful and insightful, powerful for me. The 4 questions are, the first one is, when you're feeling activated and you identify what the fear is or what the meaning that you're making of it is, the first question is it true? So let's say that your boss offers you some feedback or asks you to explain something that you've done. And the meaning that you're making of it is they're going to fire you. So the first question, is it true? Maybe it's true. The second question, can I absolutely know that this is true? No, I can't know that this is true. The third question, how do I feel when I believe the thought that my boss is going to fire me? I feel like shit. I feel stressed out, panicked, worried, anxious, like a scared little girl. I fear that I'm going to be destitute and homeless. The fourth question, who would I be without the thought? I would be peaceful. I'd be totally neutral. This is a neutral event. So without that thought that my boss is going to fire me, my boss is asking me to explain something that I've done, I would be a person explaining to my boss what it is that I've done. And that's it. So that's the brief version of Byron Katie's 4 questions. Again, check out her website, read one of her books if you're interested in exploring her process more deeply. I think it's awesome. Another practice, A Course in Miracles tells us that every upset, there is a blessing encoded in every single upset. So claim the blessing, claim the blessing. Where is my blessing in this situation? The blessing is that we are bringing an unhealed false belief, an unquestioned fear or false belief to the light for healing. So claim it, claim the blessing. Maybe there's more blessing in it even than that, and claim for it to be made evident in your awareness. So another practice that helps me is a emergency toolkit. This is something that my teacher Jennifer Hadley talks about, and it's something that a lot of recovery groups, 12-step programs and recovery groups talk about. Have some tools at your disposal for when you become triggered. Drink a glass of water, go for a walk, take 10 deep breaths, whatever. Make a list of about 10 different tools that you can turn to when you're feeling upset. One that really helps me is I keep a note in my phone's notes section of really impactful spiritual quotes, a lot of them from A Course in Miracles, but also from other spiritual teachers and spiritual texts that remind me of the truth and help bring me back to my right mind. Because when I'm upset, I am not in my right mind and I'm confused, and I've got 12 million contradictory ego thoughts floating around in my brain, and some of them sound spiritual and some of them, so I just get super confused. So having this note that I can pull up when I'm stressed, it just gets me out of my thinking mind, because I'm just reading this, and it just calms the flow of thoughts and recenters me on the truths that I want to be reminded of. And the practice is also demonstrating our willingness to choose a different thought, choose a different way of thinking this. So it's very powerful. It's a very powerful practice. Okay, so some key truths to take away from this is I really like what William Shakespeare says. Nothing is either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And this is so congruent with A Course in Miracles. I have given everything all the meaning that it has for me. Everything is neutral until we assign non-neutrality to it. We assign that this is good. We assign that this is bad, but all things are neutral. That's in A Course in Miracles teaching, and I love that. Shakespeare's preaching the truth. And just reminding you about the other A Course in Miracles quotes that I referenced. I am never upset for the reason I think. I have given everything all the meaning that it has for me. And I love this one that I haven't shared yet. The necessary conditions for the holy instant do not require that you have no impure thoughts, but it does require that you have none that you would keep. So stop judging yourself if you have a thought that is negative, if you have a thought that is unloving. Just acknowledge that the thought showed up, but you don't have to identify with it. You don't have to choose it. You don't have to keep it, as this says, and just move on. So I can talk more about that another time, because I think it can be a little bit woo-woo, I don't know, out there. Okay, so if we are out of the present moment in fear of the past repeating itself or in worrying about the future, then we're taking ourselves out of the space where the miracle can occur. So you want to get back to the present moment as quickly and easily as you can. I love the quote, worry is the misuse of our imagination. So just when you notice that you're doing that, just stop. That's it. And okay, I think that's everything that I have to say about it. I want to now give you like the steps to practice. So I have like a pregame plan, a game plan, and a post-game plan. So the pregame plan is become aware of these spiritual truths, which is, if you're sticking around and watching this video, this is what you're doing. You're becoming aware of these spiritual truths so that you're more aware of what's actually going on. You're more equipped to handle feedback in the future with grace and from a more loving space. The other pre-game plan is to let go of any expectations of yourself. Be gentle, kind, patient with yourself. We have been rehearsing this old way of responding to feedback for our entire lifetime for most of us. So don't expect to get this right the very first time, and don't expect to get this right 100% of the time. This is a practice, just like with everything. Practice makes perfect. We have to practice this. For many of us, we'll be practicing this for the rest of our life, and that's okay. Be gentle with yourself and leave self-judgment, self-punishment, the need to make yourself guilty or bad or wrong for not getting it perfect. Leave all of that out of the equation, and just we're just declaring our willingness to try to be more loving in each moment, and to try to respond with grace and love and compassion in each moment. And we're being gentle with ourselves when we don't make the most loving choice. Okay, so game time, the plan for game time, when the rubber meets the road, someone gives you feedback. Well, there are two different scenarios. Someone gives us feedback to our face, or someone gives us feedback in an email or in a text message. The preferred is obviously the email or the text message, because we have time and space to process our response. If you don't have that luxury, if someone is giving you feedback to your face and you are required to respond in the moment, if you can quickly and silently just say a prayer to yourself, and it can be as simple as "help me now." That can be the prayer. Like, I'm willing to choose love, help me now. And just do your best. It's just a lot of the work can happen in the aftermath of this situation. So try to remember that it's not personal and that it's neutral, and it's obviously harder to do in the heat of the moment when we notice all of those physiological responses that are triggered, and they will continue to most likely get triggered. You have the tools, you have the awareness. At this point, when the situation strikes, it's just a matter of remembering and choosing, and you won't always, and that's okay. So let's say you do have the luxury of time and space, the feedback was sent to you in an email or a text message. The steps are to take a moment and notice, observe your emotional response, observe your physiological response, observe what's happening in your body. How are you feeling? Are you feeling attacked? Acknowledge it to yourself, and then notice if you've gone into the past or the future, if you're worrying about something from the past repeating itself, if you're worrying about how the future is going to unfold, and bring it back to the present. Remind yourself this is a neutral event, and ask yourself, what is the meaning that I'm making of this? Is that true? And what is the fear that has been activated within me? So remind yourself, I'm never upset for the reason I think. And pray, partner up, put Holy Spirit in charge of your response before you type out your response. Ask your higher self, what is the most loving response here? And the other spiritual truth that I really like is whatever is the highest and best for any one of us has to be the highest and best for all of us, because we are all one in truth. So just hold tight to that as you work on your response. What is the highest and best way to respond here? And A Course in Miracles teaches us that in every situation, there is always, always, always a win-win solution available. So when we partner up and put Holy Spirit in charge, we open ourselves to that win-win solution. So when you are responding, respond directly to the question. Don't add anything to the story. Don't respond to anything that isn't there, that's just made up in your mind. And ask yourself if you can respond with love and defensiveness. Ask yourself if any parts of the response, like review the response as many times as you need to. Ask if any of it sounds defensive. Ask if in your response, are you trying to make someone wrong or bad? Are you trying to make the other person wrong? And ask yourself, are you trying to prove that you are not wrong, that you are not bad? Those are signs that you've gone into defensiveness. And ask yourself, are you feeling at peace? Does it sound like you're coming from peace? Does it sound like you're coming from love? And then I love one thing that we did talk about in the episode is the think anagram. So ask yourself, is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? So those are all my tools for how to respond when it's showtime. And then post game, this is just as important, if not more important. Think about a football game. They review every single play to see what can be improved upon, what they did well, what they'd like to do more of. That's the same thing that we're going to do. We're going to review how we responded to this situation without any judgment, and we're going to ask, how did we do? What could we have done better? What did we do well? It's very important to identify what you did well, even if it's simply that you recovered more quickly. So let's say usually a situation like this would have kicked you into upset and discouragement for a full-blown week. And this time you only felt upset and discouraged for an hour. That is a huge win. That is a huge improvement. Claim it, own it, celebrate it. Let's say the win is that you didn't feel the need or the urge to complain to your coworkers or to your friends about the situation, about the feedback, complaining about your boss or your spouse and how dare they question you or criticize you or give you this feedback. You didn't do any of that gossiping or complaining. You just did your inner work. That is a huge shift. That is a huge win. Celebrate it. And anytime we can acknowledge and celebrate these little wins that we experience in our lives, we are inviting more of that experience in the future. So what are the areas for improvement? It's just as important to look at what you could have done better. Don't just dismiss it like it's too uncomfortable to look at what I did poorly. Well, we're not judging here, so just look at it with an open heart and an open mind and without judgment. What would have been a more loving way to respond? Identify a very clear, more loving way that you could have responded, and this very act rewires our neural pathways, reprograms our automatic response, so we are more likely to choose that more loving response the next time we're faced with a similar situation. So that is the practice. These are the tools and the spiritual truths that have helped me, and I am still a work in progress. You can ask my husband because he's who I get to practice with the most. And yes, if you found this helpful, please let me know in the comments below. And I love you. Thank you for listening. Those that stuck around, cheers. See you later.